And welcome everyone to the first official episode of Sitting Yas with the Brass. I'm your host, Adam Brass. If you didn't watch my first video kind of going over what this show is going to be all about, it's really just going to be about my journey and stories and tales over my memories as a child, getting older, about pro wrestling, everything WWE, memories of pay-per-views and storylines, years, things that I find important in some of my journeys. In fact, our first topic, which I said would be this week, is WrestleMania 20. Why WrestleMania 20? Because this year we celebrate its 15th anniversary, which was the 20th anniversary of what has been the greatest sports spectacle in all of entertainment, WrestleMania, and I chose to go there as my very first trip. I did the rewatch this weekend, which I'm going to try to do when I figure out what my topic's going to be. I'm going to do the rewatch during the weekend. I'll hit you guys up, let you guys know what you should watch to make the show a little bit more interesting, and maybe when you rewatch it, you can have some questions or comments thrown my way before I get the show going. So it's been about 10 years since I rewatched that whole pay-per-view from beginning to end. And I find it interesting because it seems like anymore we just don't watch wrestling the way we used to as kids. I remember I used to watch pay-per-views beginning to end over and over and over and over, the same one. And now with just so much content out there and so little time, with life being so busy, just I don't get the time to sit there and really watch it and immerse myself in it the way I used to. So it was kind of fun. It was nice reliving some past and having some things brought back to me. I watched it with my nephew, and he had some great questions along the way, so I'll try to mention some of those questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break this show down into 2 episodes. Okay, one episode's going to go over basically just my trip to New York. I was only there, I think, 4 days. My trip to New York, the things I did, the things I saw, how it kind of included wrestling. And then the second part's going to be over just the show itself. And then when I do go over pay-per-views and do go over shows, I'm going to go over them both from the perspective of when or how I felt when I was there, and the perspective of the rewatch, and compare the two, because they do change. Some things get better over time, and some things do not age very well. I age very well. So why WrestleMania 20 was the question my nephew asked me. He said, why WrestleMania 20? I said, what do you mean? He said, why did you choose WrestleMania 20 to be the first WrestleMania you went to live? I said, well, to answer that, you have to go back to 2003. WrestleMania 20 took place March 14, 2004. 2003 was probably the biggest year for me as a fan in terms of live action. 2003, I attended 7 WWE events. Those 7 events took place in 2 different states and 5 different cities. I went to 2 pay-per-views, one which was my first ever pay-per-view. I went to 2 Raws, I went to a SmackDown, and 2 live events. In fact, within a 30-day period in the summer, between late July and late August, in a 30-day period, I went to 2 pay-per-views, 2 Raws, and a SmackDown. And for a fan who had never been to a pay-per-view, a fan who's never traveled outside the state to watch it, it was a big deal and meant a lot, and it was just such a rush. In fact, the greatest of it was just getting to the first pay-per-view, which was Vengeance up in Denver, which still to this day is the only pay-per-view in Denver that WWE's ever had. And it was a great one. It was a good card, and I look forward to doing a show on that one day. But anyway, so when you finally get to the pay-per-view like that, it just ups you in a way you didn't know you can be upped. And you know there's not too many levels above that, but you do know the very top level is WrestleMania. Being that WrestleMania 20 was going to be the big anniversary, we all see now they have the big WrestleMania sign at the Royal Rumble and everyone points to it, right? And then you have that for about 2-3 months. For WrestleMania 20, they had that thing out there for a full year leading up to the pay-per-view. It was a big deal, that big anniversary. And so when you go to your first pay-per-view and you get there and you see the WrestleMania logo, it's hanging up there. There's just something that's just so ominous, and it just gets into you that this pay-per-view high, and you know that sign represents the only high even bigger than what you have right now. So I remember after that pay-per-view, me and my friend Henry and a couple other guys, we all agreed we're going to WrestleMania. So one thing on our bucket list that we always said we'd do growing up, WrestleMania, we're going to WrestleMania. So we saved our money over the summer, knowing it was going to be in New York City. Waited for tickets to go on sale. Tickets went on sale like late October, something like that. I was put in charge of getting the tickets for everybody. I figured, you know what? Fastest internet I know is at work. So after my shift ends on that Saturday, when tickets go on sale, like at 9 o'clock our time, jump on there, grab the tickets. Well, the one thing I didn't count on is one, the internet in 2004 still is nowhere as fast as the internet today. And two, tickets go pretty fast when there's only about 18,000 of them for a worldwide audience that all want one. And it was very clear after about 10 minutes of refreshing and reloading and being aired out that I was not getting the tickets. So I called Henry and told him, hey, didn't get the tickets. And we all just kind of accepted the fate that we're not going to WrestleMania. So we kind of left that be. And then I think it was in January, early January. You have to remember the internet was a much different place back then because there was a lot of internet rumors that we all considered true. Now we all know that most internet rumors are not true. But back then, we tend to take it a little bit more honestly and truthfully. So early January, there's a rumor that comes out that at WrestleMania 20, in this big anniversary special, they are looking to get Bret Hart to come back in. Anyone that knows me knows that there is no wrestler that has meant more to me and means more to me than Bret Hart. And not only would he be coming back, but that he will possibly wrestle Kurt Angle. Anyone that knows me knows that right under Bret Hart is Kurt Angle. So for that possibility, that was a big deal. And, knowing the internet and knowing the dirt sheets and the rumors, I said, you know what, there's about a 99% chance that it's not going to happen. And then I sat there and thought to myself, but what if it's that 1%? What if it does happen? Can you live with yourself if Bret Hart and Kurt Angle wrestle at WrestleMania 20 and you're not there? And not there because of scheduling conflicts or having money issues or can't, find a way to get over there. You're not there because you're choosing not to take a chance. You're choosing not to be part of this. That's why you wouldn't be there. And I said, can you live with yourself? And the answer was no, I can't live with myself. I can't. If it happens, I won't be able to sit at home and watch it on pay-per-view and appreciate it. I won't be able to look back in history and go, wow, that was a great match without going, man, I should have been there. So, especially since I had never seen Bret Hart wrestle live. That was still on my bucket list. So I decided, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to WrestleMania. So back then, there really wasn't a market for secondary ticket sales. So you really had to get it on auction sites. I went to eBay, looked it up. I found single tickets to WrestleMania. And I decided that I was going to do it. So I called up a couple of my friends, called up Henry, said, hey, I'm going to WrestleMania. He said, how are you doing this? I'm going to buy a ticket on eBay. It's going to be really expensive, but I'm going to do it. And all my friends, including Henry, said, I already spent the money I saved for WrestleMania, so there's just no way I'm going to be able to go. So I said, all right, go on it myself. Which wasn't a big deal. I've never had any problem going to a movie by myself, going to a hockey game by myself. If I have to go by myself, I'm going to go. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I'm going for me. And this is WrestleMania. This could possibly be Bret Hart, Kurt Angle. This is for me anyway. So I get on eBay. I get on an auction. I bid. I pull that little stunt where I hopefully get that little $10 increment at the last 10 seconds. And hopefully he doesn't bid back. And I won. I won my ticket to WrestleMania. And I spent, I want to say, about $380 for that one ticket. And that was a high. And then about a week and a half later, because back then there was no PayPal, so you had to send in the money order and wait for him to get the money order, and then he had to cash the money order, and then he would send the ticket. And then about a week and a half later, in the mail, I open an envelope. And there it is. An actual physical ticket to WrestleMania. A boyhood dream, a fanatical fan's dream, a ticket to WrestleMania. I remember holding it, just like, I couldn't believe it. There it is. It's mine. And I have a pass to get through the gates to WrestleMania. Now, of course, the ticket only cost this guy $104, so we made quite the profit off of me. Yeah. And then, of course, it only took about 10 seconds of realizing this amazing moment that, holy crap, I only have a ticket to WrestleMania. I don't got a plane. I don't got a hotel. I got nothing. And WrestleMania is just a little under 4 weeks out. So I decided, well, I better get on it. So I was going to put this trip together. First thing I did was I called my mom and I said, hey, I'm going to New York. She said, what? I said, I'm going to New York. I'm going to WrestleMania. She says, oh, that's awesome. She goes, who are you going with? Nobody. I'm going by myself. And she said, no, you're not. Said, yeah, I am. She goes, there's no way. There's no way you're going to New York City by yourself. I said, Mom, I'm 20 years old. I'll be fine. She goes, well, I don't feel fine letting you go to New York by yourself. I didn't even live with my parents at this time. And she still just was not. She's like, you know what? I'll find the money and your dad will go with you. I said, Mom, I already got the ticket to WrestleMania. He can't go with me. And she said, that's fine. You can go to the event by yourself, but he'll go with you on the rest of the trip. I said, you know what? All right, cool. Never mind any company. And it ended up being pretty cool because it's the only trip me and my dad have ever taken together. So he decided to jump on board, and to New York City we went. I ended up getting a hotel that was literally across the street from Madison Square Garden. It was called Hotel Pennsylvania, one of those hotels that's been around for hundreds of years since the beginning of New York. It was quite the hotel. It was, gigantic. The biggest thing for me, though, it was literally across the street. As I look across the street right now at my neighbor's house, that is literally the distance that my hotel was from Madison Square Garden, which blew my mind because anywhere around here, in most places, arenas are in their own areas or in a metro area. They're not close to anything. And so just to be able to walk out the front of my hotel and cross the street and be at Madison Square Garden was pretty awesome. Here's a picture right here. Madison Square Garden. That's what it looked like across the street. I'm taking that picture in front of the hotel. Yeah. I mean, so just right there, just amazing. The thing I'll never forget is as soon as we got off the airplane and we are getting in line to take a taxi to the hotel, I just remember getting in the taxi. And if you've never driven in a New York taxi, you have not lived. Let me tell you. I have become a much more confident driver watching him drive and knowing how you push yourself around and how you play chicken with others to get what you want. I don't play it anywhere like he did, but wow, that was an experience. I swear the car was turned backwards on one-way streets at times just to get around other traffic. They want to get you to point A and point B, and they don't care how it happens. So that was pretty exhilarating. So, I always tell people, if you've never been to New York City, go to New York City. It is a city like none other. I've been to lots of cities in this country, and I'll tell you the only one that is completely unique in every aspect is New York. I took this picture out, which you see, Madison Square Garden. Up there says All Access Tour. The reason I took that picture was because at the time, Madison Square Garden was doing an All Access Tour. You could buy a ticket to this All Access Tour, and they would tour you around the arena. Lots of arenas do this. And I was like, wow, that'd be cool. And then I saw they were doing one March 14th, day of WrestleMania. I'm like, whoa, I could take a tour of Madison Square Garden the day of WrestleMania? That would be insane. I could run into somebody. I could see backstage. I could see all these things. That was so awesome. So I get online, find a ticket, and I bid on it. And this other jerk bids on it. And we're battling back and forth. And if you've ever bid on eBay, there comes a point when you no longer even want the item because it's too expensive, but you want to keep pushing the other guy because you're angry, so you want him to pay as much as he has to unnecessarily because you're angry you no longer can buy this at the price you wanted it. And that's what I did. And I forced this poor guy. I was done at 300. That was my limit, 300, and I got him all the way up to I think 450 before I cut out. And of course, it's a dangerous game because he could cut out before you do, and then you're stuck with a huge bill. But I always remember I stuck him with that 450 bill, and then the best part was about a week before WrestleMania, they announced that there was no access tours during that weekend, so anyone that had tickets to an access tour that weekend would have to get a refund. So I'd imagine that was not easy, getting a refund for a ticket you didn't originally buy and bought from someone off of eBay. So I kind of felt vindicated in that, and probably not the nicest thing that I've ever done, but I felt good about that, so I took that picture to remind myself of that story. I remember, too, when my dad was very set on not wanting to travel around New York. I wanted to do the whole New York tourist thing. I'd get on the double-decker buses, see all the touristy things. I wanted to live it up as quickly. I wasn't going to be there long, like 3 days, so I wanted to live it up. And my dad told me, hey, I'm just going to stay in the room. You do what you want to do. He's really just wanting to appease my mom. You do what you want to do, and I'll stay in the hotel room. The problem was he thought our hotel room was like a modern hotel, not this like 1850s hotel where the rooms were the size of closets. Here's a picture of our hotel room. Okay, that is me at the front door of the room. That's it. That's as big as it is. There's one door to my left. That's the bathroom. That's it. There was enough space for one bed, the rollaway bed that I had to get for myself, and barely enough room to roll around. As soon as he saw the size of this room, he said, well, I guess I'll be going with you. Because there just really was nowhere to enjoy. It was just cramped. So he enjoyed traveling New York with me instead of just staying in the hotel. What I did find ironic was the room that we stayed in was room 619. Yes, 619. So you just know it's going to be a good wrestling weekend when you get room 619. The only thing better would be 316. Or if you're an RVD fan, 420. Right? The hotel, too, was only like 2-3 blocks away from Times Square. And that was pretty fun. There's a picture of Times Square, you know. It's everything you imagine. When you see it on TV and all that stuff, it's exactly how you see it. Even more so. I mean, you just don't realize how many people live in New York till you're in the masses, and just, it's crazy. A couple things in Times Square that they had that was awesome. They had Toys R Us. That was I'm a Toys R Us kid. Right here. I'm a Toys R Us kid. Love Toys R Us. They have a Toys R Us at the time. Down in Times Square, here's a picture. One of the pictures I took in there. They have a Jurassic World section. It's freaking awesome. They have a huge Ferris wheel. I mean, the things that, like 3 stories, 4 stories, just this endless amount of toys and rides. It's everything you could ever want. And the cool thing was, too, is back then they didn't have access. So since there was no WWE access, they got with Toys R Us and they put all their stuff in there. Like, you know, stuff like this that you'd see at Access now, like Kurt Angle's singlet and medals. And they had Kurt Angle robes, Undertaker garb, championship belts, just lots of things. They had this really cool thing that I still see from time to time where you can match your hands with Andre the Giant's imprints. There's my dad with his hand on Andre's hand. You know, so it was really cool. Not only do you get Toys R Us, but you get the WWE experience. And that's the first time that you start to really feel it. And I'll tell you this, if you ever go to WrestleMania, as soon as you get off the plane in whatever city you're at, as soon as you step off, you just are just surrounded by wrestling, by WrestleMania. Everywhere you look, there's a fan. Everywhere you look, there's a sign, there's a poster, there's something. Whether you're hearing it or seeing it, it's unlike anything you've ever seen, and it just gets you so ramped up, gets you so excited. And so that was the first time I kind of experienced that. You know, I remember getting when we were driving in the taxi. I mean, they had paid these street artists to do murals. You know, the graffiti murals in parts of New York to advertise WrestleMania. It was so crazy. It's like you just cannot not be excited that it's WrestleMania, and the weekend it totally takes over. One of the other things I did, you know, I did a lot of the things. I went to the Rockefeller Center, NBC Studios, all that good stuff. I remember telling my dad, I said, hey, I want to go and see the UN building. I got tickets. We'll see United Nations. And I told him, I said, hey, so do you want to take a taxi or do you want to walk? I wanted to walk, because when you walk, you see lots of things that you wouldn't normally see, you know, get to find some holes in the wall type restaurants. And he looks at me and goes, we're taking a taxi, because I showed him on a map how far it was. And I said, okay. And then I pulled the old, you know what? My dad is like an 8-year-old kid right now. He was constantly looking up, just amazed at everything. Honestly, I looked after him more than he looked after me. And so I figured, you know what? I bet you he'll just follow me to the United Nations building. And so, sure enough, that was my plan. He just followed me all the way to the United Nations building. And before he realized it, I was like, hey, look, there's the UN. He's like, what? So, yep. And then once he realized what happened, it was too damn late. So I just took one picture. This is the Security Council building, United Nations. The thing I remember about United Nations building is, so growing up, I don't know about you, but I have a favorite number, a lucky number. And I didn't choose it, it chose me. And that's the number 24. And I always tell people, 24 is my lucky number. 24 is my number. And at this point, you know, people like my dad were very skeptical. Like, okay, sure. And so we get to the United Nations building, and there's all these different groups, okay? There's just tons of groups, and each group's going at different times to take the tour. And what they do to make sure you don't get lost is they pull out all these little pins and they have a number on it. And they put it on so you have to wear it so you know what group you're part of. So this person pulls out a bag and everyone is getting the number 3. We're group 3, right? And he's passing them out. Everyone's getting number 3. When he hands me my button, it's 24. And as we're standing there, I was like, hey, that's cool. And then when I realized I'm not supposed to have this number because everyone's supposed to have 3. And then that guy comes up to, and I put it on because I was so happy. And the guy comes on, he's like, you're not supposed to have that. And he's like, that's weird. So he takes it off and gives me 3. And I look at my dad. I said, I told you. And his eyes like disbelief. I was like, what are the odds that we would get the bag of 3s? And in that bag of 3s, the one that's not 3 would be 24. And that one that's 24 would be given to me. I told him, it's just that number has chosen me. I did not choose it. And he was a believer that day, and I still never forget it because it just proved the skepticism wrong of him. And still to this day, number 24 follows me. Another story I forgot down in Times Square was we were walking one night, and there's a big store. It's like a Sam Goody type store. If you don't remember Sam Goody, it's like music and stuff. And we get inside there, and it's huge, just absolutely huge store. And we spend about 20 minutes looking around, don't buy anything. We come out, we walk across the street, and we're looking at other things. And my dad says, hey, look at that. He points across the street at that Sam Goody store that we were in like 15 minutes ago. I was like, what? It's like that. I said, what? He goes, that store with all the music and the games. Look at the size of it. Dad, we were just in there. Really? I was like, yes, really. He's like, wow. He was just so, like I said, like a kid. He was just so excited. And these little things, and it just, things would go over his head, and there was so much he couldn't process at all. I remember we took the double-decker bus tours, and it was cold. Okay, it was a cold March, very cold. And I remember telling him, hey, do the double-decker bus tour. We're going to get on that double-decker. I said, hey, do you want to ride on the bottom or the top? He goes, let's go up the top. I said, okay, because I know it's going to be really cold. So he walks up the steps first, and he stops, and I just hear him go, holy, I said, what? He goes, there's no top. I said, there was no top when we were standing on the outside to get in, of course. That's why you go to the top, so that you could see everything. So he remained miserable and cold. I was miserable. At least I got some really good pictures. I'll probably try to upload a little bit more pictures and put them to the Facebook page. I'm creating a Facebook page so that we can conversate a little bit better than just in the comments here of the video. But the 2 things I really, really wanted to see, Statue of Liberty and Ground Zero. And so I remember as we're heading to Ground Zero, kind of preparing myself, because I'm figuring it's going to be very overwhelming. Because they're still digging the hole, clearing it out. And so I remember they drop you off about 4 blocks as close you can get with the bus, and you have to walk the rest of the way. So as I'm trying to prepare myself emotionally to be there, I'm walking, and my dad's right behind me. We get to the area, okay, and here's a picture of the flag right in front of the fence. That's as close as you get. And then beyond that fence, about 20 yards is the gigantic hole that they're working on. And all the surrounding buildings are still damaged, and they're working on those buildings too. And so as we get to that point, as soon as I stand there, there's these protesters, probably half a block away. And I do not know what they're protesting, but they got chants and yelling. So there's really no sadness right now. And I'm just like, I'm kind of feeling irritated, and that's not how I should feel in this position right now. So I'm trying to recollect myself to, recognize where I'm at and kind of take it in. And as I'm trying to refocus my mind, in my other ear, got protesters here, my dad's next to me here, my dad says, hey, do you know where there's a restroom? I got to take a piss. And then I just gave up. I was like, you know what? There's not going to be any somber moment here. Let's go find your bathroom, old man. So I just left it there, got my pictures. We found him his restroom. And then, of course, the second thing I absolutely had to see was the Statue of Liberty. Boom. Went to Liberty Island. Can't do much there. They didn't even have the main part open, so you can even go in the base. Because it was still pretty close to 9/11. So that was cool. It was really cold. The thing I remember about that, though, is we were on, you got to take that little ferry um, to the island where the Statue of Liberty is. And on that ferry, there was these two women, these two Canadian lesbians, and they had WrestleMania stuff on. And I said, hey, you guys going to WrestleMania? And they're like, yeah, we're going. We went to the Hall of Fame last night. It's like, whoa, that's awesome. And we started talking, and they said, what are you doing? And I said, I just got a ticket to the event. It's like, oh, like we got the travel package. It's like, oh, I remember seeing the travel package. I think it was really expensive. And they said, yes, the travel package. They said, we're telling you, it's cost a lot of money. And it seems like it's a lot of money, and it is, but I promise you it's worth every penny. The way they treat you and what they give you, it's all stress-free. It's awesome. We highly recommend it. And I kept that with me. And in fact, I would use the travel package the next two WrestleManias I went to, 21 and 22. And of course, after we got done with the Statue of Liberty, I decided to take a pass on Ellis Island because I told my dad, he goes, you want to go? I said, why? We're not going to see any of our family names in the books there. I said, we want to see our family names. We need to go to a hole in the wall or a hole in the fence somewhere along the Texas border. So we both agreed that was true, and we just passed it over and got back. So I think that pretty much covers, my New York portion of the trip of WrestleMania 22. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut it off right now, get that uploaded, and then when we come back for part 2, we're going to go over the actual pay-per-view and how that went to be. Like I said, with these pay-per-views, I'm going to rate them, how I remember seeing them then, how I viewed it now on the review, on the rewatch. So stick around. I will get that second part